Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Max, if you could kindly take us out of audition. We will go 3-2 base. Here they come, and boom, 9 to noon is in the air. First Place Radio is in the air from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. Our Tuesday home for 9 to noon, and I'm Paul Allen, Nordo by my side, mad producer producing on site, and the great Maxwell Fuller guiding the great ship Love Covenant from FM 100.3 KFAN, and good morning. I caught Bill Belichick on a drive last night on Jim Gray's radio show called Let's Go. And I was driving through Chaska, the land of milk and Nordy. And guess what coaching immortality dropped on Jim Gray and Vikings fans last night? And good morning. If Belichick said, if I'm with the New York Jets, I tell my guys, the best team in the National Football League is the team we are playing next. Now, this is Bill Belichick.
What?
And I can't say I've ever heard Bill Belichick talk like that. I mean, we've heard on to Cincinnati. We've heard, let's metaphorically speaking, bouquets and glowing things about the good Sam Darnold is providing. Blake Cashman this, Stephon Gilmore that, Jonathan Bullard this, Harry the Hitman that. And then they have the kicker, and he never misses. Questions. So we've heard Belichick in monotone fashion talk like that. But I can't say that I've ever heard the best, it being called the best by the best. I'm sure he said it about other teams potentially early in the season, but this is also new with Bill Belichick popping around and doing the McAfee tour, the Underdog tour, the Jim Gray tour, and things like that. And just to say it again, this is being called now we're 4 games into it, all right? So we're 23.5% into the season. But Belichick is not necessarily the type, simply because he drafted Kevin O'Connell and he worked with Brian Flores, to just overtly and over effusively ship praise the way of somebody because of people he knows. But he said, paraphrasing, if I'm the New York Jets, I tell my guys, the best team in the National Football League is the best team we play. So how do you unpack all that?
It's so amazing, and I'm glad you mentioned as part of that, Bill Belichick does not live in the world of hyperbole, right? I mean, it's, what we do, we have an absolute blast. When things are awesome, they're the best. When things are terrible, they're the worst. And you operate with loudmouth soup, I feel like, at least I do, from an excitement factor on the high end and just absolute overlying dread on the low end when it comes to our favorite teams. I'm emotional. I'm a man-child. I don't know how many people would go out there when trying to describe Bill Belichick and call him emotional by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
So we were talking about it just last week, kind of the idea of, playing from, he mentioned this on his own podcast, the idea of playing from behind and, trials and tribulations of a season. Vikings haven't really been tested.
Yeah.
Well, Belichick watched the Vikings stake a massive lead and then get severely tested over the course of the second half at Lambeau. So as Ron Johnson and I are doing Fan Line, and we're trying to celebrate JJ, all he does is it's a touchdown a game. I mean, if we get a touchdown a game from 18, we're in good shape. We're celebrating Aaron Jones' return to Lambeau.
I think Jefferson might have scored in like 6 games in a row, 4 this year and 2 to finish last year.
He had one definitely in both Lions games.
Yeah, I think he's on fire right now.
He's absolutely on fire, and his pockets are full, and everyone's happy at 4-0. But it was a tale of 2 halves. And that was kind of the dominating conversation of Fan Line, was not the 28-point lead that the Vikings staked, was not the start fast and dominate and put Jordan Love in awful spots that created the massive advantage that ultimately was the difference in the game. It was, did you see the muffed punt? Did you see the bad throw to McKinney? Why did he do that?
Yeah.
And so we left with a victory, but left with a bad taste in our mouth. And that's why when you hit me with this with Belichick, it's the perfect. It's awesome to hear analysis that is devoid of the emotional connection to the team.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick has no skin in the Vikings game. He is calling it as he sees it, and we're hearing it from the mouth of a guy that saw things pretty damn clearly for 2+ decades in New England. And to hear that, it's absolutely it's kind of shocking in a way that he would go to the lengths that he did as part of that conversation with Jim Gray.
Yeah,
and I'd love to find the podcast somewhere and hear it myself. That the next team they're playing is in fact the best team in the NFL. That's crazy.
I think it might have been part of the like Monday Night Football pregame package or something. Even though I heard it on the radio. Well, it's interesting you said that because he said if I'm with the Jets, I tell my guys the best team in the NFL is the next team we play, the undefeated Vikings. Then J.J. Watt said something nice about the Vikings defense, and then Belichick followed it up by saying, quote, they have yet to play from behind. That's the next test. Right. Well, I understand what he's saying, and it plays into what you said from Fan Line, nitpicking about leading 28-0 and potentially making it too close for comfort. That absolutely is analyzable, and it's fun to dive into the context of the minutia. My question would be is how does one craft that? I mean, how does one, because in 2022, the Kevin O'Connell-led Minnesota Vikings through the last 2 years, that is not a coach or a coaching staff where you fairly can say they are front runners and they have not faced stern tests, adversity, or problems. Now, granted, against the Indianapolis Colts a couple of years ago, they made their own problems. They're down 33-0 at halftime. Well, that's stressful.
Yeah.
And they pushed through it and overcame and won. Winning at Buffalo through all of that. Stressful, pushed through it and won. 4-quarterback bit last year. Pushed through it, didn't win enough. So I just, when Kevin O'Connell joins at 11 a.m., if we have time, I'm going to get this Belichick piece in with O'Connell, a former Jet, and also somebody who was drafted by Bill Belichick, and see what he thinks.
Do you think in some ways with this regime that, let's look at it now in 4 games in, a lot of games to go. A lot of things can happen. 2022, in some ways, I feel, looking back, that was an overperforming season in some respects for the Vikings, where there were cultural and energy elements that put this team in a spot where if the coin flip goes the right way, they can take that victory. But ultimately, sadly enough, and this guy coached in the league for a long time, Ed Donatell's defense was not good enough. And trying to figure out how to run the ball, you get the home runs from Dalvin Cook, but all the same, there were things that needed to be worked out. Then last year... But
see, off that, because I've heard it before, the details matter, and they're fair. The overarcher is they won 13. That's the push through of they've yet to, what do you say? They've yet to play from behind. That's the next test. That would be unto this year.
Yes.
But it also is good to know there's a head coach, a staff, and X amount of players who pushed through that in 2022 and 2023.
Totally agree with that. And that's kind of the direction I'm headed with this as well, because this is a team that overperformed by being great in those spots, by passing those tests. Then into last year, you had spots where, that's a winnable game at Denver. Like you can go down the line of just a wonky season that was flipped on its head with a hamstring injury to Justin Jefferson. The rookie filled in nicely in his mix, Jordan Addison. But of course, the Achilles at Lambeau for Kirk, that started to tell the story. Dobbs for a game and a half, and then we just limped our way to the finish line. But you combine those two together, and now you're seeing a team, and maybe a coaching staff. You mentioned the details that matter. This is a team through 4 weeks that's it's almost like they've put those elements together to a point now where we've been tested. We've been on the right side a lot. We've been on the wrong side even more if you look at last year. And now we're staking these leads and we're putting the details in to put us in spots where we really faced our first real test of the season in the second half against Lambeau and not facing big deficits early in the game. That's part of our formula that was in the audio of the coach's post game. Getting the lead, getting these fast starts. This is our formula. Yeah, if we're gonna drop 14 on somebody's head every single week, we will be a 14 or 15 win team.
Right.
That's how important it is. That's what they're doing right now. And so passing those tests, and it's really exciting. And Bill Belichick is paying very close attention, it appears.
Well, in closing here, before we get to a Vike Bite, being called the best by the best, it's flattering, but it's also eye-opening. But when you consider, through 4, what goes into being the best, well, consider this. Brett Favre is the very best Vikings quarterback over, let's say, multiple decades. Fran, the man on the fan. I mean, Dante had some good. It's Brett Favre. It's HOF here, okay? Now, granted, it was Brett Favre who gave us that memorable 09. So, through 4 games in 2009 for Brett Favre, compared to Sam Darnold through 4 games in 2024. How about this? Favre, 85 completions, Darnold, 73. Favre connected 68% of the time, Darnold 68.9. Favre threw for 837 yards, Darnold 932. Darnold has thrown 11 touchdowns, Favre threw 8. Favre's passer rating was 104.7 through 4, Sam's is 118.9. So that plays into the context of, at this stage, according to Bill Belichick and some others, potentially being the best. Kevin O'Connell, when he has his number 1 quarterback, all right, Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold. There have been 28 times in the regular season Kevin O'Connell has had his number 1 quarterback, and the team is 21-7. I mean, no matter what defense, what personnel, what running back, what play action you're trying to run off Madison compared to Dalvin or Aaron Jones, the number is the number, man. It's when O'Connell has his number 1 quarterback, this team is 21-7. And that's something that needs to be deeply rooted in people's minds of how, not only how good this guy is, but how organized and squared away the staff is when they have their number 1 quarterback, and how offense then will complement defense.
Yeah.
And it's a complementary thing, man. It's 21-7. You got a Vike Bite for us provided by?
Provided by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Proud sponsors, Gophers Athletics. They're a Clearwater, Minnesota company. Matt and those guys do so much great work. Delicious food. Find them at the website or go to your local Coborns or local co-ops. Let me just hit you with this Vike Bite as we close here. Sam Darnold, all the weeping and gnashing in teeth about him being the starting quarterback into 2024. He's now 5th in MVP voting, PA. And that's just kind of putting a stamp on this thing about Kevin O'Connell getting to work with his guy, choosing his guy. And as this thing continues to go on, I joined a bit 810 down in Kansas City yesterday. Sarin, his radio show, and he was asking me, this Sam thing, this is real. People on the outside, the people that look from the national side of things, they're already wondering, is Sam Darnold potentially going to get re-signed for big cash in Minnesota? That's what people outside of the Vikings covenant are looking at when they view the Vikings right now. He has jumped from 80-1 to 13-1 now, 5th in the NFL as MVP candidates go. The first to double-digit passing touchdowns. This is a guy now winning 4 consecutive starts to begin the season. I believe this is the first time in his career. I don't even have to look that up. Yes, it's the first time that Sam Darnold has done that in his career. It's been so amazing to watch this transformation, the connection, the QB guru that is Kevin O'Connell. If you may have doubted it before, what has he done? Well, when he was with the Rams, they had to bring in Matt Stafford. What has he done in developing quarterbacks? You're watching it before your very eyes right now. The reclamation project that is occurring with Sam Darnold is beautiful, and the league, not just Bill Belichick, but everybody, including those with money on the line, they're taking notice of Sam Darnold.
Yeah, and when the scribe joins at 10, potentially we'll go down this road because I've read it on social media. I've seen stories and I've heard it on the radio, like you just said, because that's, hey, if this continues with Sam Darnold, what are the Minnesota Vikings going to do with the big horse still in the barn with the bad knee?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so far away from not even caring about that at this moment that's
what I said. That's what I said. I'm like, if this is week 16 and he's doing everything, I'm happy to be dealing with that conundrum in December.
Yes.
Right now, I'm thinking team's 4-0, about to go to London. Let's sack Rodgers a bunch and go into the bye. Perfect. That's all I'm thinking about right now. I can't even fathom what that conversation looks like around Christmas if things go the way they've been going.
Aaron Rodgers, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, and his Jets failed to score a touchdown against the Broncos recently, which is bad for business. But Aaron's yards per attempt is 6.6, and that requires deep diving because that's the lowest of his career. Ugh. So we'll start getting into the Jets as the week goes on. Yours truly leaves for London on Thursday. Fully plan to do some radio hits with you on Friday from where the Vikings are practicing. Hopefully, then we have the game on Sunday and then the bye week. Here's the deal. 9 to noon today includes head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, at 11 a.m., the scribe at 10, and around the corner, the columnist is set to join us at 9:20. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. All of that is courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. That's what's on deck 9 to noon, which also includes the cash thing guided by Max Fuller.
The Fan and 2 Men in a Truck want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword credit at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That's keyword credit. Enter it now at KFAN.com.
Here comes Lavelle Neal III, columnist for the Star Tribune, and he's ballyhooed. Follow him via Twitter as 9 to noon does, at Lavelle Neal. And Mr. Lavelle Neal III is en route to Minnesota Timberlinks. All right, 3-2. How Minnesota Timberlinks. I kind of like that if you combine the teams. Collier taking passes from Dillingham. That'd be cool. But he has some links duties today, and here he is. Lavelle, 9 to noon. What's going on? And thanks to Allery's for sponsorship of your weekly inclusion, 9 to noon. How are you?
I'm doing fine. All is well. Just headed downtown to see how the Lynx are going to respond tonight in Game 2 against Connecticut Sun.
Yeah, okay.
I wonder if he's not potentially in audition, or
I don't know.
Are we being fed the same feed potentially that?
Yeah, y'all can handle that because
Can you hear me?
yeah. How you doing, bud?
There we go.
I'm good. I guess you didn't hear me before. I said I'm doing well. Mm-hmm. I'm headed downtown to see how the Lynx are going to respond in Game 2 against the Connecticut Sun. I was at Will's Media Day yesterday, so it's been a lot of hooping going on the last couple of days.
Good. And thanks for the time too. Did you watch the Bears game at Allery's?
I did not. I was at I was shoveling dirt on the Twins' grave Sunday at Target Field.
Yeah, I saw the I read the I read the piece you had, and we'll get into it momentarily. Your Sunday special, Falvey and Baldelli have earned one more year. We'll figure out what that was about momentarily, but let's go in inverse order with basketball. So media day for the Timberwolves, 9 to noon, by the way, is at the Timberwolves training facility tomorrow, TRIA, for training camp, and Chris Finch starts the show at 9 o'clock. The Karl Anthony Towns trade, what Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo come here, Cat goes there. How did that hit you, and what'd you think?
I was stunned. 1, 2, I quickly reminded myself that the Knicks have kind of had a kind of fancied Cat for years now, and so this reflects their persistence in trying to land someone they felt would be a key piece going forward. It was a very interesting deal because the Wolves traded away probably the best player in the deal in Cat, but I think they emerged an even deeper team with DiVincenzo coming over in a bit, joining guys like Joe Ingles and some of the other players they've assembled here, the 2 rookies. It's a deep team, man. It's a deep team that can play small when it needs to, play big when it needs to. Sorry to see Cat go because he's a rather unique individual. And when you traded for Gobert, I thought the trade was made with Cat in mind to free him up to do Cat things, which means face the basket, shoot 3-pointers, be on the perimeter the way he likes to be. And I thought it worked. I thought they got a lot of mileage out of that. This will lead to kind of a different approach now with Julius Randle, who's more of an interior force. But I'm curious to see it. Excited to see it, especially the DiVincenzo bit, plus the 2 rookies, Terrence Shannon, INI, coming in from Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
So I was at Media Day yesterday for about half of the day, and, guys are fired up, and guys are looking forward to playing with Randall, and Gobert's ready to welcome him in, and Ant's ready to welcome him in and learn how to play with him. So a lot of positivity right now.
Do you believe, with all of the right components healthy, do you believe the Minnesota Timberwolves have a better chance to advance, like say past Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic with the Dallas Mavericks, advance to the NBA Finals with this preferred 8 or 9 compared to what they had last year?
Fitch is saying he has like 7 or 8 starters now, which is a lot of teams can't say. I think that it's going to be it remains to be seen. I think the potential is there. To me, one of the keys here, and the reason I like Boston so much is because they got 5 guys who are hard to guard. And it's hard to play a team like that when all 5 guys can put the ball in the basket. Apparently, Jaden McDaniels has had a huge offseason, and he's added some wrinkles to his game. And to me, if he could take a step forward offensively, that would be huge for this entire club. But then at the same time, you got DiVincenzo who can shoot from the perimeter. You got Ingles who is just such a smart, heady player who uses every nook and cranny of the court to create advantages. That's going to help offensively as well. I think the potential is there, and I trust in Chris Finch's ability to get the best out of this group. So the potential is there for them to take another step forward offensively and be even tougher to deal with in a tough Western Conference.
Okay, now with your duties today, with Link's shoot around before Game 2 this evening against the Connecticut Sun, Connecticut wins at Target Center Sunday night in a rather tightly contested game with a very vivacious crowd, and both teams are very, very good. Likewise for Las Vegas and New York on the other side of the bracket. But this I don't you potentially follow the WNBA more closely than do I, even though I followed it really closely this year, probably the closest I've ever followed it. So, I've seen Alyssa Thomas play a little bit, but I watched her a lot the other night. Well, Alyssa Thomas for this Sun team is a really, really good player. This lady's a problem, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. She is. It's going to be a battle. You get the two best defensive teams in the league, too. And it's going to be issues. Alana Smith did a great job in the short Mercury series. Going up against Brittany Griner is no small task at all. And she was blocking shots and moving her off her spot and keeping her from being effective. I'm sure she'll find a way to at least keep her slowed down in tonight's game too. So, and she said she's not really a center, but that's the position that she already needs her to play. And I think she's done an admirable job. Now, that she comes up with a correction and comes up with some ways to be effective tonight. I also think Courtney Williams plays a big role. She was 2 of 12 from the field in Game 1, and that's uncharacteristic for her. If she reverts to her regular shooting percentage, then the Lynx win that game. And so I expect to see a response out of her as well. So it's going to be entertaining down at Target Center tonight.
What is impressing you with the Minnesota Vikings 4-0 start?
The offensive execution. I think we all knew for sure that the defense was going to be at least solid, potentially excellent because of Brian Flores' talent, and we've been seeing that. The reason the Vikings have shocked the NFL is because the execution offense. Aaron Jones is a great pickup at running back, and Sam Darnold is throwing the ball with confidence, and he's not turning over the ball too many times. You're getting strong offensive line play, and Addison's back. He's healthy and making an impact. They have turned heads. They have got the national pundits saying, "Hey, this is a quality team. This is a team that can go on a run." And maybe, we all have to kind of re-examine our train of thought here when we are evaluating the season, because you plug Kevin O'Connell into the bit here, and his influence on offense, his ability to coach players and get the most out of them. He has made Sam Darnold relevant again. He's revived his career, and we're seeing that unfold for the Purple.
With your Chicago Bears, with the Bears?
Yep.
How did they look Sunday versus the Rams? I know it was a lopsided score. I just haven't had time to watch back highlights and get into the all 22 and stuff like I like to do with the division teams weekly. But it seems young Caleb took a positive step.
Yeah, I'm curating this take based on looking at highlights, reading stories, and talking with people who watched the game. Yep. And it was kind of a grind at first. They weren't. The offense wasn't clicking early on. DJ wasn't happy. Something was bugging him. He caught a touchdown pass Sunday.
And? Yeah.
The dramatic pause. Kind of excited for the punchline to this now.
Well, I understand. Completely agree. All right. Thank you, my brother. And we thank Allery's for the sponsorship on a weekly basis. And that's the columnist, Lavelle Neal III, in ballyhooed fashion at Lavelle Neal via Twitter.
I will say, though, continuing down the Caleb lines, just watching highlights from the games and just kind of getting the vibe of it, Caleb certainly is getting more confident and inherently more competent.
Yeah.
But I thought this was a liftoff point, or that it would be for him against the Rams, and they had to grind that out. Roshan Johnson doing his thing, and the Rams right now are just so depleted. It is so ugly. And the Tyler Johnsons of the world, one catch in one game, doesn't get a sniff the next game. They're trying to make Tutu Atwell a thing. Puka and Cooper are both on the mend on the shelf.
Is Puka done for the year? Or is he a short-term bet?
I believe the anticipation both of them could come back.
Okay.
The IR designation, I believe this is the case, is your season's obviously over if you rip the ACL, but other than that, in this particular case for him, I forget what his injury was. They just put you on IR, and then after 4 weeks, you'd be eligible to return.
I see.
I believe both of them are anticipated to come back at some point this year, and well, Niners fans are feeling on the other end of that with the Christian McCaffrey bit. But
yeah, how about that?
But yeah, Caleb, the rookie of the year right now, as things progress, this Jaden Daniels thing in Washington is running by all of them, lapping all of them.
Right.
So Caleb Williams has the right to be great someday, and even this year. But I haven't seen greatness out of him yet. That's kind of just what my vibe is, extending that off the columnist, Lavelle Neal III. So
you watched the Lions and the Chickens last night, or at least caught a fair amount of it, and I did not.
Watched most of the game, yeah.
So Amon-Ra St. Brown throws a pass for a touchdown to Jared Goff.
Yeah.
And so then I'm listening to the game a little bit, driving back from a Southwest Christian high school where I had the privilege of speaking last night in the land of milk and Nordy, which would be known as Chaska. And I'm listening to the game, and I'm like, damn, this is a high scoring game here. And the Lions have been involved in some moments where they've kind of been a little high scoring. Then I get home and I catch the final half of the fourth quarter, and even though Seattle lost, Geno Smith, man, he just continues to astound me, and I think, Sam Darnold can kind of be in that same fishbowl a little bit, maybe under a different rock because we're only through 4. But Geno's done good things since he's been empowered, and they're receivers too. I mean, Metcalf, who there was a moment in that game where the Lions had cut it to I think it was one score, and they're throwing into the end zone, and a corner absolutely mugged DK Metcalf.
Yep.
Front right of the end zone. And it's just one of those moments where with the official that was right next to him.
I think it was on the 2-point conversion play, potentially.
No, this was a long one.
Okay.
This was a deep shot, and the corner was behind him. Metcalf's so tall and so big, he plays the rebounding game. He had the position. The ball was in the right place. And the corner reached around him, like had one hand on an arm pulling him, and then left hand like around the front of him. And it's when there's an official who kind of paused and moved his left hand a little bit like he was going to reach for the flag, and then he didn't. And I was watching it saying, I mean, that's what just happened there. That compensated anxiety attack that I just witnessed is one of two things. It's you're either afraid to make the call or you're dumb. That's the only way. You're either not good at your job and you're just flat dumb because you were 3 feet away from it. You're compensated to know what you saw.
Right.
And you made a twitch and then you held back. So, like, why didn't he throw the flag when he was that close and he was twitchy to go get it? And it's like certainly like, okay, Detroit's at home, and no, none of that plays into it. It's a quick twitch situation with having confidence to do something and execute it in the moment, even though you're going to have tens of thousands of people on you in that stadium. Or I'm just going to look the other way, which inherently is a cowardly move. And if you're not looking the other way and really you're 4 feet away from something and you know what you saw, and you didn't throw the flag, well, then that means that you're not bright.
Right.
So, I mean, it all of that was like going through my mind on that play, but Geno threw such a beautiful ball, man.
Well, he's playing free, and maybe,
he's playing freely. No doubt.
Drawing a parallel to Darnold. Since he joined Seattle and has found his way into that mix post Russell Wilson, he's playing free. There's clearly, a level of confidence in that he's built. Their
receivers are nice. That Jackson,
Smith and Jigba,
Smith and Jigba. He really has gotten good off the line of scrimmage. I mean, just running the routes as fast as you're supposed to run them. Lockett is a wonderful short intermediate kind of guy. And DK is the intermediate deep guy. Yep. And they get Kenneth Walker back. I don't know what kind of a game he had.
He was spectacular.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, see, like, I kind of like Seattle into that game plus the 3.5, but with Walker returning. But I understand they had a lot of other injuries around the rest of the team and stuff.
Well, their defense and Devin Witherspoon's got a lot to learn.
Really?
Yeah, he looked out of place a couple of times. He went head to head with why am I completely
David
blanking?
Montgomery?
I think it was Montgomery.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely freight trained. He was in poor coverage on a Jamison Williams touchdown. Devin Witherspoon, and they got Reek Woolen, and they have some nice pieces there.
Reek Woolen, though.
But you go on the road in primetime and your offense puts up 29.
Yeah.
You want to feel like you have a chip chair and a chance, and it just never felt that way. The Lions offense last night, 18 of 18 from Goff. It's nearly effortless.
Did he finish 18 of 18?
Yeah, for 292. And
when we were texting, he was 15 of 15, and I just jumped into the game. I'm like, damn, Jared Goff hasn't missed yet.
Yeah, he hasn't, and then he didn't. But no, it's And you should see, I think it's A.J. Barner. It's a Michigan tight end.
Oh, yeah.
I think they got him mid-round.
Oh, that's right.
This guy looks...
Yes.
He's young, and he got his first career touchdown last night.
Who got Barner? Detroit?
No, the Seahawks.
Oh, the Seahawks.
Watch this kid grow.
Dill Whistly dead.
He's a specimen for Seattle. That's going to be a tough game later this year. But the Lions last night, defensively, they can be gotten. Terrion Arnold, you talked about, we were joking about Laramie Tunsil and his issues. Terrion Arnold has the second most penalties of anybody in the NFL.
Five going Laramie Tunsil up on this thing.
5 PIs, 2 defensive holdings, and a face mask. He was getting picked on a lot last night. Super talented. He'll get better. It's kind of like the old Xavier Rhodes / Xavier Rhodes.
Yep.
Zimmer'd have him like wearing boxing gloves, trying to defend people at Winter Park. So maybe that's the Terry and Arnold approach. But that defense can be had a little bit. And Aiden Hutchinson was just 2 inches away from about 5 sacks last night. He messes everything up for everybody.
Oh, the Smith DK play was when the right defensive end, not Aiden Hutchinson, I think it's 41, jumped offside.
Oh.
And it was the free play.
Yeah.
It was the free play. I'm just going to chuck it up, and which was the right move. That was the play I was talking about with Metcalf, and it was 10 of 10 pass interference. Side judge, back judge, right there 3 feet away. Didn't have the guts to throw the flag, but anyway.
But Gino, his ability to extend plays and the athleticism of Sam Darnold, we may week 7 when we host the kiddies out of the bye, we might be hoping for seeing his athleticism at his best in extending plays, because that defensive front is Aleem
McNeil. He's nice.
Oh, he saved a touchdown last night. Just getting the initial thrust, then he backed up 2 steps and just swatted a Geno pass. It would have been wide open to Lockett.
Oh, wow.
Front of the end zone.
So they're playing fast.
They're playing fast. Jack Campbell had this sweet forced fumble on DK last night. But again, they can still be had in coverage. I like our ability to find those matchups and exploit them with KO. But both those teams moving forward, we're excited. We're the only undefeated team in the NFC. Would have liked the Seahawks to win and give us that 2-game advantage in the North. That was kind of the A topic for me. But but impressed. I mean, and it was so effortlessly perfect last night for Goff. I mean, and it was just you're clowning on people with this Amon-Ra St. Brown passing TD.
I haven't seen the highlight. Was it beautiful?
Yeah.
Was it Philly Special-esque?
Philly Special was shocking because it was new, it was fresh, it was Foles.
Yeah.
It was cute. Goff tried to outrun this. I mean, if he had 10 more yards to run, he's not getting the touchdown.
It wasn't a pass into the end zone?
No, he caught it with about 5-6 yards
Come
to go,
on.
I think. I don't have the highlight in front of me, but
that's a playmaker.
But he had to outrun. He was either a lineman or a linebacker chasing his shoe straps into the end zone. But yeah, I mean, Amon-Ra making his. I think he had never attempted a pass either with the Lions or even in college. So they were doing some damage last night. It was a super fun game though, and some sneak peeks to what's ahead.
You're listening to 9 to Noon from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. A Tuesday, head coach Kevin O'Connell joins the mix an hour and 20 minutes from now. KOC, yeah, you know we, at 11 o'clock. And fan inclusion is involved each and every week. We will share with you what that means when 9 to Noon continues on KFAN.
Get ready to laugh the night away when comedian Russell Peters heads to Treasure Island. Don't miss this hilarious and unapologetic comic when he takes the stage on the Island Event Center on November 29th. Tickets are on sale now, and you can get yours at ticasino.com.
9:50 in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood is Eagan, Minnesota. Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, home to the undefeated Minnesota Vikings, and this is 9 to Noon's First Place Radio. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, joins about an hour and 10 minutes from now. Ben Gessling, the scribe covering the team for the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com. He joins 10 to 15 minutes from now, and with Kevin O'Connell, we play a talkback from a listener for Kevin each and every week. And, by now I would imagine most of you know where to get it, but just in case, the free iHeartRadio app, you'll find a microphone. You have 30 seconds to offer thought, and then the constituents that be search through them, and they find one that they choose to play for Kevin O'Connell. If you could share your name and maybe where you're talking back from, that would be sweet. But if not, we can figure it out. And you can do that today for Kevin O'Connell. What I wonder what the listener will have up their proverbial sleeve today for the head coach off the 4-0 heading to London from the old talkback machine.
Yeah, I mean, whether you're Bob from Burnsville, Ricky from Richfield, etc., whether it's are you curious how Kevin O'Connell, what was it like facing adversity, the second half, the nerves involved in that, how cool it's been watching the variety of defensive players do their thing, Sam Darnold, and what was maybe expected prior to the season versus what you're getting. I can tell you this by being the fly on the wall in here during these conversations. Yeah. Kevin loves these talkbacks. He loves hearing from the fans, and this is just kind of a cool thing that we came up with a couple weeks ago. Just, hey, since the coach is here, let's get the listeners involved. Let's get the talkback machine fired up, and let's do it. And so send those talkbacks, and PA's right. Use your name and where you're from so we can give you credit for your great question. So we'll play one of those at 11 o'clock. Maybe a question, PA. And not to go kind of like Vikespike style on this.
Let's go.
But maybe there's a talk back today that says, hey, did you see through the evolution of time here, did you know that Harrison Phillips was going to start this season playing out of his freaking skin? And last year of deal, gets extension, super excited, 2 more years with Harrison Phillips in the mix. But this career season he had yesterday, and I know I've said it before, He played a massive amount of snaps last year. It was like 75% of the snaps, a career high in a lot of regards across the board. So he had the best season of his career, but big guys get tired, as you would say. So in 2024, kind of how do you get that production while also protecting and in some ways saving the energy and being able to level that out? This is a defense last year that rapidly ascended and stayed at a very high level for quite a part of the season. And then just frankly, from my outside viewpoint, I think these people got tired. I think they wore down, and it was tough sledding at the end of 2023.
Yeah.
75% of the snaps a year ago. He's played in 56% of snaps thus far through 4 games. And you're seeing in terms from a statistical production standpoint, this guy is mattering every single time he's in the mix. He's taking on double teams and winning. He's effective in the run game. He's getting his hand up for the swat like he did with the assist on the Kamu Grugier-Hill pick last week against 2 weeks ago now against the Texans. He is such a factor in these games, and we're getting more production and fewer snaps. That leads me to believe that the Harrison Phillips I'm seeing right now, there's a better chance it's the same Harrison Phillips in December as it has been in September, which means Earth, Wind, and Fire style, we're going to be dancing hopefully around Christmas time with this guy in the mix.
Phillips is absolutely the number one player that I hear when it comes to scheme change, responsibility required, and not necessarily the way he's being handled this year, because I heard a lot of this stuff in the offseason, that what Flores does and the ever-changing nature of the Minnesota Vikings defense really, really compliments Harrison Phillips. He's really put in a position for him to be his very best. And that plays into the O'Connell, be your best when your best is required. But after the very first game of the season against the Giants, Phillips had a sack, and he had a wonderful, wonderful game. And I did an appearance with him at Hy-Vee Robbinsdale.
Hy-Vee
Robbinsdale beef. And we were talking about the game a little bit, and he mentioned that, he's like, I only played this amount of snaps, and he was cool with it. Well, clearly because like the plan has been laid out for them, even though it's not laid out for us or the public. And that's part of it, where there are going to be certain players in certain spots who may be compensated a certain way. And that may lead to a perception of, okay, because you make this and you're good at this, we're going to need you 85% of the time. Where the one orchestrating it, and the new defensive line coach, by the way, Marcus Dixon, formerly a defensive lineman, I believe, for the Cowboys, he and Pat Hill, his assistant, okay? So last year, the defensive line coach was Chris Rumpf, and Rumpf left like middle of the season, and Hill took over. Well, that experience Hill got running the room and running the team, and now is the 1A to the new defensive line coach. I mean, there are underlying things that fortify a 4-0. There are underlying factors that few are going to pay attention to because they either don't know it or they don't understand the importance of it in the ultimate team game. The collective nature that's needed to collaborate to get all 11 to win play after play after play after play. And when your 1A on the defensive line gets more than half a season experience being the one, then they bring in a one. Well, your 1A is strong. It's stronger than your 1A was before last year. The quarterback coaching situation. Chris O'Hara was the quarterback's coach the last couple of years. Cousins had wonderful, wonderful seasons. The Vikings saw an opportunity to have Chris be an offensive amplification coordinator because he's a savant with the passing game, from what I understand. But that brings in Josh McCown to be the quarterback's coach. Okay, so what's off that? All right, is Josh on the fast track to becoming an offensive coordinator or a head coach? I don't know. But what I learned out of it was how much quarterbacks really like having their position coach be a former quarterback. And they just talk the same talk. They just talk the same language. They've seen the same things. And then now the next layer to that is O'Connell, former quarterback, working with quarterbacks. So that's kind of an underrated piece of nuance there. And all of that from a defensive line standpoint plays into Harrison Phillips, where he gets that 2-year bump and he gets new cash, but he's playing less than he's played the last couple of years. But everybody, including him, are better for it.
Yeah.
It's complicated. Football's complicated, man. And a lot goes into the personnel, how much they're playing, the conditioning, the physical and mental wherewithal, and trying to drag all of them to the finish line at the end of 17 in one piece. To be ready to do it 3 or 4 times more at even a higher level when you're absolutely more beaten up than you were in September, October, or November, and then you got to go out and try to win a Super Bowl. And so that's kind of like with Harrison Phillips. He's in and out so much. He's fresh. He's fresh so frequently. He was a menace in the running game between the tackles at Lambeau Field, mostly.
Well, and how about Bullard as well? I mean, let's just continue down that defensive front. And I'm glad you mentioned him. I forgot that there was a change in that position, and frankly, just to be honest, little confused. I mean,
What do you mean?
Well, just I wasn't thinking about Marcus Dixon. I wasn't thinking about the change there and how that works into the mix. Mike Pettin has, over the last, this offseason in particular, but a little bit last year,
great point,
has kind of focused his duties more specifically to the defense, as we've seen some tweaking of personnel on the coaching ranks.
He's become the outside linebackers coach. So they had a coach, Mike Smith, who, I like either right before the first game last year or right around there. What's up, Ben? When did Mike Smith, was that first game last year? It was very early, right? Mike, last year, the outside linebackers coach, Mike. Yeah. So then Pettin kind of took that over right before the season. This is a former defensive coordinator, a former head coach. Well, now he's had the entire offseason with the room. It's his room, still as assistant head coach. But like we were talking about with Pat Hill, who ran the defensive line last year and was the assistant before Chris Rump left. All of that is like under the radar, behind the scenes stuff.
Oh, Rump went to Clemson.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, almost midstream. Right. Yeah, okay.
Right. So that's
now we got some continuity coming in here.
So Pettin working with those outside linebackers, he's done a wonderful, wonderful job. We'll chat about Vikings football and much more with Ben Gessling, the beloved scribe, courtesy of Standard Heating and Air. He's next from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center and the Vikings Entertainment Network on KFAN.